ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD කෝල්ස් ගන්න SLT ෆෝන් එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Good evening. Tonight, floods aftermath. Health officials warned the general public on a possible outbreak of health epidemics.
And if someone is having fever more than 2 days, that you have to see a doctor to get his advice.
Premier in the north. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe visits Jaffna and Kilinochchi districts, assures development programs. Caught red-handed. 74 containers of imported canned fish unsuitable for consumption discovered. The 20th and beyond. UPFA parliamentarian Uday Gammanpilla highlights defects in the draft of the 20th Amendment presented by the JVP.
I invite MP Anurukumara Disanayake to join me in a public debate on the 20th Amendment in particular.
And in international headlines, rattle in China. Over 1,600 houses in Songyuan city damaged following a 5.7 magnitude earthquake. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7, Sri Lanka's news channel. Hello everyone, I'm Mahesh Johnny. What is the latest on the match-fixing scandal? We'll have a full report later on in the show, but first, we begin with a health warning tonight. Officials in the health sector points out that there is a tendency of epidemics spreading in the areas affected by floods as a result of incessant rains experienced recently. They are calling and advising people living in temporary camps to follow safety rules and regulations to the letter that will be implemented by the public health inspectors.
There are few diseases which can be spread during this time, mainly bowel disease like diarrhea, typhoid, hepatitis. Our public health inspectors and public health midwives, they both are visiting those camps every day. They are seeing the patients. So if you are having any problem, any disease, that you can contact them. We are having a threat or the disease called leptospirosis may be spread. We have to take actions, especially taking drugs called doxycycline, which is available with the PHI and the MOH.
Meanwhile, according to the Meteorological Department of Sri Lanka, wind speeds can gain momentum once again in the coming days, especially affecting coastal areas. Wind speed can gain strength up to 70 km per hour, especially in districts such as Puttalam, Colombo, Galle and Hambantota to Batticaloa. The department wants fishing and naval communities in the area to be vigilant. Our reporters also captured as to how locals in Kottukachchiya were seen fishing in Kachimaduwa Wever, which is flooding. Meanwhile, the locals in Magulagama in Panduwasnuwara managed to recover the body of the person who went missing after getting caught in the currents of flood waters. The individual was missing for 4 days and the body was recovered 3 kilometers away from the place where he was last seen. Accordingly, the number of deaths caused by the floods in 2018 has increased to 24. The body of the 29-year-old police surgeon Dilan Sampath was brought to Madampi police station last night. He lost his life when he heroically managed to save several people who were trapped by floods and sacrificed his life in saving them. Later, the body was brought to his house in Malgamur in Giriulla, and the Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara paid his last respects. The final rites of the surgeon was held at the Malgamur cemetery this evening.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Shilpa Abhimani Presidential Handicraft Awards 2017 was held today under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. Traditional handcraft artists were honoured today for their contribution to the craft industry in the nation.
Organised by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce together with National Crafts Council, Shilpa Abhimani Handicraft Presidential Awards 2017 was held today at the BMICH in Colombo. National level handicrafts artists who contribute to the traditional craft industry were recognized today. Many received gold and silver awards with cash prizes at the awards ceremony. Following the awards ceremony, President later visited the All Island School Handicraft Competition and Exhibition 2018, held in line with the awards ceremony.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasises that Kilinochchi district has the most potential to implement the biggest rainwater harvest project in the country. The Prime Minister today toured the northern province in order to ascertain the progress of the development projects carried out in the area. Progress review meeting on development projects in Kilinochchi district was held today at the district secretariat.
Minister of Northern Development D.M. Swaminathan, State Minister of Child Affairs Vijay Kala Maheswaran and several state officials participated in the meeting that was chaired by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Northern Province is the poorest of all 9 provinces. We thought of first focusing on infrastructure development projects, resettlement and releasing of occupied lands. There is progress when it comes to all these projects and processes, but we will continue to keep paying attention to them. We must also focus on lifting the living standards of people in the province. We will be able to provide some support to the issue of lack of water when Malwadu Oya Reservoir project is implemented. We must first develop the Kilinochchi district. The district is facing many problems due to lack of water. I would like to invite foreign experts to look into water management because this district has more sufficient water resources during rainy season and none during other climate conditions. That is why I think we should implement the biggest rainwater harvesting project here in Kilinochchi. And when it comes to the Jaffna district, we should focus on developing fisheries and tourism industry.
Meanwhile, district development meeting of Jaffna was also chaired by the Premier at the Jaffna District Secretariat today. Provincial councillors and state officials who represent the Northern Provincial Council also participated in the meeting.
Leader of the Pivithuruhela Urumaya, parliamentarian Uday Gammanpilla, claims that he has identified 9 defects in the draft of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. Addressing a media briefing at the party headquarters today, the parliamentarian invited parliamentarian Anura Kumara Disanayake of the JVP to join him in a public debate on the matter.
Unfortunately, the JVP has assigned drafting the 20th Amendment to an amateur who has no in-depth knowledge about the Constitution. According to the bill, executive presidency will be abolished with effect from 9th January 2020. However, in terms of Article 31(3), the presidential election shall be held not less than 1 month and not more than 2 months from the expiry of the term of the president in office. Present president's term will be expired on 9th of January 2020. If it is so, next presidential election should be held on a date between 9th of November 2019 and 9th of December 2019. The newly elected president has 2 weeks to assume the office. It means if the election will be held on 9th of December 2019, he can assume the office on 23rd December 2019 for an office to be abolished on 9th of January 2020. It means we are going to hold a presidential election spending billions of rupees of public funds just to elect a president in the office only for 16 days. MP Anura Kumara repeatedly says there were not a conspiracy of the JVP to hand over the executive powers to present Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. According to the bill, executive presidency will be abolished on 9th January 2020. Thereafter, head of government, head of cabinet will be the Prime Minister. I invite MP Anura Kumara Disanayake to join me in a public debate on the 20th Amendment in particular and abolition of the executive presidency in general.
Meanwhile, the leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, parliamentarian Anura Kumara Disanayake, says that according to the proposed 20th Amendment to the Constitution, a new Prime Minister can be appointed only through establishing a new parliament. The JVP leader made these remarks today addressing a media briefing in Colombo. We have clearly mentioned that not a single power which has been given to the President via the 13th Amendment will not be deterred by the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. President's power on provincial councils, including the appointment of governors, will not change. Further, President's power given via the Public Securities Act will also not change. After such time, when the Act will be passed in Parliament, it will come into effect only after the current President's term has ended. Then, till a new President is elected, the current President will be the President who has been appointed by the 20th Amendment. On January 8th, the term of current President's term ends, and that is the end of the executive presidency. However, he will be appointed as the President by the 20th Amendment, and he is not an executive President. Well, Prime Minister is getting new powers as well. Because of the same factor, the bill says the Parliament should be dissolved within a month after this bill is passed in Parliament. It means a Prime Minister should be appointed by a new Parliament.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු විසුරුව හැර නව පාර්ලිමේන්තුවකින් අග්‍රාමාත්‍යවරයෙක් තෝරාපත් කරගත යුතු තිබෙනවා.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa observes that Muslims in the country will soon be able to live without trepidation. Speaking at an Islamic religious event organised by Milfa Kafur Foundation yesterday, the former Defence Secretary went on to assure that the Muslim community will once again be allowed to live freely under a regime led by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. It was during the time when the Muslim community had much respect and love for former President Mahinda Rajapaksa that a locally and internationally inspired conspiracy was carried out to create disapproval among the Muslims towards the former regime. We will never let the Muslim community live in fear under a Rajapaksa regime. I assure you that you will be able to follow your faith freely, continue doing your businesses without any trepidation in the future when a regime is appointed under the leadership of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Responding to recent statements made by several members in the Parliament on the speech made by the chairman of the Viyatmaga Forum, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the convener of the Patriotic Professionals Forum, Dr. Nalaka Godahewa, says that what he really meant was that the socialist economic models of successful countries in the region should be studied in order to create a suitable one for Sri Lanka. He said this addressing a media briefing held in Kalutara today.
We can see some powerful ministers of the current administration have got really scared having seen the large crowds who came for the recently concluded Viyatmaga Convention at Shangri. In particular, these statements say that Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa's views on economy are very similar to that of UMP's economic policies that are stated in the election manifesto of 2015. They even allege that the term social market economy that was in 2015 election manifesto of UMP was used by Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, which is totally wrong. Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa never spoke of a social market economy. The term that he used is socialist market economy. That this is a economic system that has been practiced in China since late 80s. And in developing that economic model, we have to make sure our sovereignty is protected, our culture is protected, our value systems are protected, our national assets are protected. Now how can UMP say that anybody has taken their economic policy when they don't have economic policy? If they have an economic policy, how can they presented 9 different economic policy statements within just 36 months? That clearly shows that they have no policy whatsoever. In fact, it is because of that reason the country's economy is in current state. Economic growth, which was at about 7% when this government came to power, is now at about 3.1%.
In other local stories we have for you tonight, Sri Lanka Customs states that 74 containers carrying canned fish unsuitable for human consumption has been discovered. Customs spokesman Sunil Jayaratne said the value of the imported canned fish was in the proximity of 378 million rupees.
Officials have identified the origin of the canned fish being imported from China and Taiwan. 15 containers were rejected and were sent back, while the remaining stocks of canned fish are being held at customs.
74 containers carried 137,000 kilograms imported by various companies. All these containers have been proven unsuitable for human consumption. After the paperwork completes, we will re-export these stocks.
Meanwhile, the Food Research Unit of the Ministry of Health and Indigenous Medicine say that a special investigation carried out by the unit confirmed that in several instances, substandard canned fish were being imported to Sri Lanka.
While importing goods from overseas, if they are not suitable for human consumption, it should not be taken out of the port and they have to adhere to it. Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne has been elected as the Vice Chairman of the World Health Organization for a period of 1 year today. With that, here's a look at some other stories that is making news across Sri Lanka.
Parliamentarian T.B. Ekanayake was summoned before the FCID today to record a statement over an allegation of misusing public property. He was questioned over allowing a Buddhist monk to use a ministerial vehicle when he was the Minister of Cultural Affairs. Veteran actress Deepani Silva was arrested by Bandaragama police this morning after her car collided with a three-wheeler and injured a child. She was later granted bail by the Panadura Additional Magistrate. The accident occurred at Kindalpitiya Junction on the Bandaragama Kasbah main road at around 6:40 am this morning. Parents of grade 5 class of Palavila Sri Ratnakara Mahavidyalaya in Ratnapura engaged in a protest demanding a teacher for their students. The parents claim that 41 students who are getting ready for their grade 5 scholarship examination does not receive a proper education. The funeral of Dehiwala Mount Lavinia Municipal Council member Ranjan De Silva took place this evening at the Mount Lavinia public grounds. He was shot dead by an unidentified gunman last Thursday. He was elected to the Dehiwala Mount Lavinia Municipal Council, representing the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back everyone, on to business news. A recently released report by a tea brokering firm states that Sri Lanka earned over $478 million from tea exports from January to April 2018, which is only second to 2014 record of $508.7 million. Accordingly, this marks the highest earning in quarter during the last 4 years since April 2014. The report also says that Sri Lanka has earned over a high of 74.1 billion rupees from tea exports during the first 4 months from January to April this year, which is up 7% compared to last year's figures of 69.2 billion rupees. Tea exports for January to April 2018 had recorded at 89.7 million kilograms against 88.5 million kilograms during the same period the year before. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka has shipped 20.8 million kilograms of tea in April 2018 alone, up 4% on last year's figures of 20.1 million kilograms. Record crude oil volumes exported from the United States will be heading to Asia in the next couple of months. This will take another piece of the market away from Russia and producers in the OPEC.
The United States is set to export 2.3 million barrels per day in June, of which 1.3 million barrels per day will head to Asia. Data from the Energy Information Administration shows US oil exports peaked at 2.6 million BPD 2 weeks ago. The record outbound volumes come as US crude production hit all-time highs, depressing US prices to discounts of more than $9 per barrel below Brent crude futures today, the widest in more than 3 years, and opening an arbitrage for excess supplies to other markets. In Asia, China, led by Sinopec, the region's largest refiner, is the biggest lifter of US crude. The company, after cutting Saudi imports, has brought a record 16 million barrels of US crude to load in June. India and South Korea are the next biggest buyers in Asia, each lifting 6 million to 7 million barrels in June. Indian Oil Corporation brought 3 million barrels earlier this month via a tender, while Reliance Industries purchased up to 8 million barrels. Reuters, however, say that even if Asia and Europe are keen to take more US crude, the record volumes are straining export infrastructure in the United States, limiting its ability to pump and ship more oil.
Let's take you to the stock market now. Sri Lankan shares marked their lowest close in 2 weeks today, with investors mostly keeping to the sidelines awaiting cues about the real impact of the floods. The All Share Price Index ended 0.22% weaker at 6,453.41 today, and the turnover was 397.4 million rupees, less than half this year's daily average of 977.4 million rupees. Now here is Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange with a detailed report.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,014.69 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 41.36 million rupees and foreign sales were 99.55 million rupees. There were 2 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 78.35 million rupees.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back everyone. On to international news. Italy is mired in fresh political turmoil, with President Sergio Mattarella facing impeachment calls after he vetoed a choice for finance minister. The Eurozone's 4th biggest economy has been without a government since elections in March because no political group can form a majority.
Italian general election was held on the 4th of March after the parliament was dissolved by President Sergio Mattarella by the end of last year. However, no political group or party won an outright majority, resulting in a hung parliament. It is in this backdrop that Italian Prime Minister-designate Giuseppe Conte and the Italian President held discussions yesterday regarding the formation of a new Italian government. However, President Mattarella had rejected the name of Paolo Savona, the Eurosceptic candidate that the League Populist Party and Five-Star Coalition had put forward as the finance minister. Following this discussion, Prime Minister-designate Giuseppe Conte announced that he had given up efforts to form a government. Five Stars leader Luigi Di Maio meanwhile called for impeachment under Article 90 of the Constitution, which allows the Parliament to demand a president to step down based on a simple majority vote. If the vote is in favour, the country's constitutional court then decides whether to impeach the president or not. Meanwhile, President Mattarella has summoned Carlo Cottarelli, a former executive director of the International Monetary Fund, who could form an interim administration.
Making headlines across the world, over 1,600 houses were damaged following a 5.7 magnitude earthquake which hit northeast China's Songyuan city today. The earthquake forced local residents to evacuate their houses almost immediately.
The 5.7 magnitude earthquake rocked the Ninjiang district of the Songyuan city of northeast China's Jilin province in the early hours today. More than 100 aftershocks under a magnitude level of 2 have been detected so far. As the authorities prepare to build temporary camps, the locals have been asked to stay with their relatives until further notice. Currently, no casualties have been reported and relief supplies have been provided to quake-hit areas.
Well, in one of our headline stories, after a revelation by the media network Al Jazeera on an alleged pitch fixing during the Indian tour of Sri Lanka in 2017, Australia's tour in 2016 and in the upcoming England tour of Sri Lanka, the entire cricket world was spun out of control. Although Sri Lanka has had a clean record in the past in terms of match or pitch fixing, today the island's credibility of hosting any upcoming tours is questioned. Al Jazeera's expose yesterday of a match-fixing racket allegedly involves the groundsman at the Galle International Cricket Stadium and former Indian cricketer Robin Morris. Sri Lanka Cricket, meanwhile, today convened a media briefing to respond to the series of allegations that followed the story.
Al Jazeera's investigative expose was carried out by one of its journalists, David Harrison, who disguised himself as a wealthy businessman. During his visit, Harrison met with a former Mumbai cricketer Robin Morris. Later, he makes arrangements to meet with the deputy manager of Galle International Stadium, Tharanga Indika, and Tharindu Mendis at a leading hotel in Galle. Mendis is a former cricketer who has played around 100 first-class matches. The test match between Australia and Sri Lanka took place 6 months after Tharanga's appointment as the deputy manager. In the expose, he speaks on how he has prepared the pitch for the test match.
How much do you pay? Paid them 25 lakh rupees Indian.
The match ended within 2.5 days, and Tharanga also told the undercover reporter from Al Jazeera how they doctored the pitch for the match between Sri Lanka and India in July last year. They also talked about the scheduled test match between Sri Lanka and England in December this year. The International Cricket Council said yesterday it already began an investigation into the findings by Al Jazeera, adding that its anti-corruption unit is committed to working to uphold integrity in cricket. Sri Lanka Cricket too immediately issued a statement extending support to the ICC investigation. However, the Board of Control for Cricket in India reacted cautiously to the revelation, saying it would consider action against implicated former cricketer Robin Morris only if he is found guilty in an ongoing ICC probe. In the meantime, former Sri Lankan players whose faces were revealed through footage while agreeing to match-fixing attempt at an upcoming 2020 match went on to refute the allegations. Sri Lanka Cricket meanwhile convened a media briefing.
The pitch reports have been already provided some time ago. So, if there was anything like that, they would have brought it to our notice at the time we played against Australia. Incidents like this occur all over the world. So, right now, I know it has created a bad impact on the organization and the country. But we have taken all necessary action to show the world that we are not encouraging, and this type of things we will not tolerate even in the past or in the future. When incidents like this occur, they are not going to kind of bring sanctions in and say, look here, we would like our people to prepare wickets. That will not happen.
Well, here's Manusha with the weather.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. As the full effect of the southwest monsoon season is felt in the island, we will have to brace for turbulent weather conditions in the next few days as well. But for all of us, we will have to experience normal temperatures with temperatures varying between 21 to 33 degrees Celsius, with the highest temperature expected in the Mullaitivu and Batticaloa district. Lowest temperature, of course, can be expected from the central hills. Moving on to your rain forecast now, there will be showers in the areas of northwestern, western, Sabaragamuwa, central and southern provinces. Fairly strong winds can also be expected, particularly in the western and northwestern provinces. That's it from your weather center tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9, we'll return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. But before we go, we like to leave you with some sights and sounds of Arugambe, of which traditionally fishing has dominated the local economy. Tourism in Arugambe is dominated by surf tourism. However, tourists are also attracted by the local beaches, lagoons and historic temples. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.